You reach a certain point in life where you stop chasing, not because you've given up, but because you've grown wise enough to know what's worth holding on to and what's better left behind. After 70, life shifts. It stops being about proving yourself and starts being about preserving your peace. And if you want that peace, true, deep, lasting peace, you have to learn the art of letting go, not just of material things, but of habits, mindsets, and burdens that no longer serve you. The truth is, many people carry unnecessary weight far beyond the years when they should have set it down. They cling to things out of habit, fear, or guilt, not realizing that holding on is exactly what's robbing them of happiness. But here's something you should understand. Peace isn't about having more. It's about needing less. It's about clearing the clutter, not just from your home, but from your heart and mind. So today, we're going to talk about 5 things you should throw away after 70 if you want a truly peaceful and happy life. But before we get to the list, we need to lay the foundation. Because letting go is not as simple as tossing something in the trash. It requires a shift in the way you think, and that takes time. One of the first things that must go, even before we discuss the physical clutter, is the belief that you must keep everything just in case. This mindset is one of the biggest thieves of peace in old age. For decades, you've been conditioned to save things, clothes that no longer fit, papers you'll never need, trinkets collecting dust, because you never know. But if you stop and think, how often do those just-in-case moments really happen? And even if they do, would holding on to those things truly make a difference? Or would it just keep your life crowded with unnecessary weight? This doesn't just apply to objects. People hold on to relationships, grudges, and regrets in the same way, out of fear of loss, rather than a genuine need to keep them. But here's a secret that only time teaches. Letting go isn't losing. It's making space for what truly matters. Now, before we move forward, take a deep breath. Let yourself sit with this thought for a moment. Think about all the things you're holding on to, not just in your home, but in your mind. Ask yourself, do these things bring me peace, or do they bring me stress? Because after 70, the goal isn't to carry more. The goal is to carry less. The first thing to let go of is old regrets. Everyone has them. Decisions we wish we made differently, opportunities we missed, words we didn't say, or maybe words we wish we hadn't said. The older you get, the more those regrets pile up, and if you're not careful, they become a heavy burden. But here's the truth. There is nothing you can do to change the past. Absolutely nothing. And the more you replay it in your mind, the more it steals from your present. Think about it. How many moments of joy have been overshadowed by regrets from decades ago? How many conversations with loved ones have been filled with "if only" instead of "right now"? Regret is a useless weight. It serves no purpose but to keep you stuck in a life that no longer exists. And if you want peace, you must make a choice. Do you want to keep carrying the past, or do you want to embrace the life you have left? This isn't about pretending mistakes didn't happen. It's about understanding that you are not the same person who made them. That version of you is long gone. You've learned. You've grown. And if you were given a second chance, you'd likely do things differently. But you don't get that chance. What you do get is today. And if you waste today dwelling on yesterday, you'll wake up one day with yet another regret. The regret of not fully living while you had the time. So what do? How do you let go? You forgive yourself. You acknowledge what happened. And then you make a conscious decision to stop letting it define you. You remind yourself that the only thing you can control is the present. And every time an old regret creeps up, you replace it with gratitude for what you still have. Think about it like cleaning out a closet. If you find an old shirt that doesn't fit and never will again, do you keep it? Or do you let it go to make space for something better? The same goes for regret. It doesn't fit your life anymore. It has no use. So throw it away and make room for something better. Now, this is just the beginning. There are still 4 more things to let go of, and each one is just as important as the last. But before we move forward, sit with this idea. Let it sink in, because the more willing you are to release the past, the lighter your heart will feel. There's something liberating about letting go. The moment you stop carrying what no longer serves you, life feels lighter. And after 70, that lightness is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. You've spent decades collecting, holding on, and preserving. But now, it's time to release. The next thing you need to throw away is resentment and old grudges. If you live long enough, people will disappoint you. It's unavoidable. Friends betray, family members hurt, and life rarely turns out the way we expect. And while some wounds heal over time, others fester. Some pains sit inside you for years, growing heavier with each passing day. You might tell yourself, "I've moved on." But have you? Or have you simply tucked that resentment away, holding on to it in case you need to remind yourself of how you were wronged? There is no peace in resentment. None. Holding on to a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. But more importantly, it's like carrying a heavy bag of stones while trying to climb a hill. The weight doesn't make the journey easier, it just slows you down. So, let's be honest. Who or what are you still holding on to? Is it an old betrayal? A family member who disappointed you? A friend who walked away? Maybe it's something much deeper. An unresolved hurt from childhood. A bitterness that has lingered for decades. You might think that holding on to it gives you control, but in reality, it controls you. Ask yourself, what has resentment ever given you? Has it made you happier? Has it brought you peace? Has it improved your life in any way? The answer is always the same: no. But here's the hard part. Letting go of resentment doesn't mean the hurt never happened. It doesn't mean you excuse what someone did. It simply means you choose yourself over the pain. You choose peace over bitterness. How do you do it? It starts with a decision. A quiet, private decision that says, "I refuse to let this live rent-free in my mind anymore." You don't have to announce it. You don't have to call the person who hurt you and tell them they're forgiven. This is about you. You deciding to no longer let their actions dictate your emotional state. There is a phrase you should remember: not for them, but for me. You let go not for them, but for you, because your peace is too valuable to waste on past hurts, because your happiness matters more than your pride. And if you struggle with this, try this exercise. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and picture the person or situation that hurt you. Now imagine physically placing it in a box, locking it, and setting it down. Walk away. Feel the weight lifting from your shoulders, because that's what it feels like when you finally let go. Now, you may think, but what if they don't deserve my forgiveness? That's not your burden to carry. You don't let go because they deserve it. You let go because you deserve peace. Think about it like this. When you were younger, you might have held on to broken things, thinking one day you'd fix them. But over time, you learned that some things are not worth repairing. Some things are better left behind. Resentment is the same. And if you're still unsure, ask yourself this: do I want to spend the rest of my years carrying this? Because time is precious now, more precious than ever, and every moment spent holding on to pain is a moment lost. We've already talked about 2 things you need to throw away after 70: old regrets and resentment. These are the invisible weights that hold you back, the things that keep you looking behind instead of ahead. But peace isn't just about what's in your mind, it's also about what's in your daily life. The third thing you must throw away is clutter, physical and mental. Clutter is a thief. It steals your space, your time, and even your peace of mind. And the older you get, the more you realize that most of what you've been keeping is unnecessary. Look around your home. How many things are sitting on shelves, in drawers, or stored away in boxes that you haven't touched in years? How many clothes do you keep just in case but never wear? How many papers, keepsakes, or broken things do you hold on to simply because you feel like you should? There is a false sense of security in holding on to too much. People think, what if I need this someday? But let's be honest. How many times have you truly needed the things you've been keeping? And even if you do, ask yourself, is the stress of clutter worth it? Because that's what clutter does. It weighs on your mind. It fills your space with distractions, making it harder to focus on what really brings you joy. And it's not just physical clutter, it's mental clutter too. Over the years, your mind has collected just as much as your home. Worries that never led anywhere, opinions that no longer serve you, responsibilities that you don't actually need to carry anymore. Have you ever noticed how peaceful it feels when you clean out a room, when you donate things you no longer need? That same feeling can happen in your mind, if you allow it. So how do you start? First, declutter your space. Walk into your home with fresh eyes. Look at everything and ask yourself, does this bring me peace, or does it bring me stress? If you haven't used it in years, let it go. If it serves no purpose, let it go. If it carries memories of a life that no longer exists, ask yourself if holding on to it is worth the emotional burden. And don't just stop at things. Declutter obligations too. Maybe there are habits you've kept simply because they've always been part of your routine, even though they don't bring you joy anymore. Maybe there are social commitments you no longer enjoy, but feel obligated to keep. After 70, your time is yours. You've spent decades doing what was expected, working, providing, maintaining. Now, every moment should be intentional. Next, declutter your mind. Let go of the need to constantly keep up with everything. The world is moving fast, but that doesn't mean you have to chase it. You don't have to keep up with every trend, every piece of news, every conversation. The more you filter what you allow into your mind, the more peace you will have. And finally, declutter your relationships. Not everyone is meant to stay in your life forever. Some friendships were meant for a season, not a lifetime. And if certain relationships only bring stress, drama, or negativity, it's okay to step back. Your peace is more important than maintaining connections that no longer feel right. Decluttering isn't just about getting rid of things. It's about making space. Space for peace, for joy, for the moments that truly matter. Think of it this way. When you were younger, life was like a suitcase packed for a long journey. You needed many things to prepare, to build, to grow. But now, you're not packing for a long journey. You're simplifying for comfort. And the lighter your load, the easier and more peaceful the road ahead will be. So take a deep breath. Look around you and ask yourself, what can I release today? There are still 2 more things to throw away, and they might be the most important ones yet. But for now, reflect on this, because every small step toward letting go is a step toward a happier, lighter life. By now, you've started to understand something important. Peace isn't something you find, it's something you create. And the only way to create it is by making space for it. We've already talked about 3 things you need to throw away after 70. Old regrets, resentment, and clutter. Each one adds weight to your life, keeping you from fully enjoying the time you have left. But there are still 2 more things, and these last ones might be the most important of all. The 4th thing you must throw away is the fear of change. One of the hardest things about aging is accepting that nothing stays the same. The world changes, people change, your body changes. And sometimes, those changes happen so quickly that you barely have time to adjust before something new comes along. But here's the truth. Fighting change only makes life harder. Think about it. How many people grow bitter in their later years simply because they refuse to accept that the world is not what it used to be? How many conversations have you had where someone says, "Back in my day," and then complains about how everything has gone downhill? It's understandable. When you've lived for so long, it's easy to feel like the past was better. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But either way, living in the past doesn't change the present. After 70, the more you resist change, the more frustrated you will be. Technology will keep advancing. Society will keep evolving. Younger generations will think and act differently than you did at their age. And if you let these things bother you, you will spend your remaining years feeling constantly out of place, constantly irritated by a world that isn't going to slow down for anyone. So instead of fighting change, embrace it. Be curious instead of resistant. Stay open instead of shutting down. You don't have to love everything about the modern world, but you can learn to adapt to it in ways that make your life easier. Think about the first time you had to use a smartphone or a computer. Maybe it felt frustrating, but eventually you figured it out. The same applies to everything else in life. You don't have to understand every new trend, but you can choose to be open-minded instead of dismissive. And most importantly, you must accept the changes happening within yourself. Your body is not what it used to be. That's a fact. You don't move as fast. You might forget things more often. Some days are harder than others. But here's what matters. You are still here. Too many people focus on what they've lost instead of what they still have. Yes, you may have aches and pains that didn't exist before, but you also have wisdom. You have experience. You have stories that younger people will never understand until they've walked as many miles as you have. So instead of fearing change, flow with it. Instead of looking back and wishing for the past, look forward with curiosity. What can you still learn? What can you still experience? What can you still enjoy? Because the moment you stop fearing change is the moment you start truly living again. And now, we come to the last thing you must throw away, the most important one of all. The fifth thing you must let go of is the idea that it's too late. Too late for what? To be happy? To try something new? To enjoy life? That's a lie, a dangerous one. And if you believe it, you will miss out on years of joy that are still waiting for you. It doesn't matter if you're 70, 80, or even 90. Life is not over until it's over. Maybe you've always wanted to travel but thought, "I should have done it when I was younger." But who says you can't go now? Maybe you've always wanted to learn how to paint, or play an instrument, or write a book. But you tell yourself, what's the point? The point is joy. The point is living. There are people in their 80s running marathons. There are people in their 90s starting new careers. There are people who find love, adventure, and purpose long after they thought their best years were behind them. The only thing stopping you is your mindset. If you tell yourself it's too late, then it will be. But if you tell yourself there is still time, then suddenly the world opens up again. You don't have to do something grand. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. But you must stop sitting around waiting for life to be over. Because it's not over. Not yet. So what will you do? Will you sit in the same routine, convinced that your best days are behind you? Or will you throw away the idea that it's too late and start living again? It's your choice. It has always been your choice. You spent decades working, providing, sacrificing. Now, this is your time to simply be, to enjoy, to find peace, to let go of everything that weighs you down and embrace what truly matters. Because after 70, happiness is not found in what you keep, it's found in what you release. Let go, make space, and live.